Hi everyone, this is Peggy with Peggy Parr Photography. I am here today because I am a new user of ACDSee and I have discovered a tool that I thought others might benefit from as well. Many of you are probably like me and you don't have extensive post-processing needs. I typically shoot real estate and business portraits, and so I don't find that I have a lot of the need for editing that some do. However, since moving to the Gulf Coast, I have started shooting photography of wildlife and different things around the Gulf Coast area. And I find that I am wanting to be more artistic with those photos and do a bit more extensive post-processing than I'm normally accustomed to. And so my goal on this project, as you'll see, I've got several JPEGs here that I shot while we were out fishing of a very cute little catfish who caught a shrimp that was almost as big as he was. And I really, really like this photo and I think it's real cute and I'd like to do something with it. However, on this day that we were out fishing, you can see that the water was very, very murky. We had had a storm, and at times when the water churns, it might take a few days for the waters to become blue again, and that was the case on this day. And so what I would like to do is turn this into a photo that has blue waters that are more like what we typically have, and I'm going to use this exercise to walk you through it with me so you can see how I did it in case you are exploring ACDSee more in depth and trying to learn tools just as I am. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my JPEG into edit mode. I do typically shoot in RAW, however, on this day I just have my phone with me, and so we capture it with what we can because we're photographers first. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer copy because I don't want to disturb my original copy. Once I have a layer copy, I'm going to come down and I'm going to select Add Mask Layer. The intention of using the Add Mask layer is that I want to select all of the areas that I want to impart a blue tone to while avoiding the fish and the shrimp. I select the brush tool. On your mouse, you can use your roller key to adjust the size of your brush, and you can use your left and right mouse keys to determine if you are taking in or putting at or taking away where the mask is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by outlining my fish. I'm not going to be terribly concerned with detail at this point because I'll come back around and do a little bit of detail work after I get the majority of the mask composed. And I'll also use this time to give you some little tips and tricks that I have discovered. The first time I attempted a mask, I found that it took me a long time because I was trying to be perfect on the first go around and have everything just so. And what I discovered afterwards when I was doing a second fish is that I can, once I've got the detail or the basic outline done, I can use a much larger brush to provide the large brush strokes to fill an area much more quickly, as I'm doing now. And you can see basically what I'm doing is I'm using my left mouse button and I am sweeping over the areas that I want to include in the water that I want to be blue while avoiding the shrimp and the fish as much as I can. And basically what you're doing with the brush, maybe the easiest way to explain it is that you are dragging and pulling the outline to where you want it to be. So you're brushing in a mask, or the way I think I understand it better is that I'm creating an outline of what I want that mask to entail. And so you can see as I'm pushing it to get into the little areas that I want it to be. So now we have the broad strokes done and we can tell what the mask is going to cover. So now what I do, what is a more efficient move for me, is I get in a little bit closer. And again, you can use your left and your mouse to determine whether you're pushing or pulling. And so, like for example, right now I'm on my subject that that I don't want to be masked, and I'm using my right mouse key to kind of push the perimeter of the mask away from my subject. And so I'm just going to do this in the areas that I currently see. Now I'm going to go to the inside of the actual mask itself of the areas that I do want affected, and I'm going to do just a little bit more detail work. And for the purposes of this, I'm not going to get terribly critical on the accuracy of my mask, but and I do find too, as new to this style of editing, I am using my mouse. I am not using a Wacom tablet or anything like that, so I might not quite achieve the level of perfection that some other users achieve, but this is not really geared towards those who already know how to perfect a mask. This is more geared to those of us who are just learning this skill set. So as you can see, I'm pushing and pulling that mask where I want it to be. And you can kind of go back in and pick up little, see, I'm still new enough that I push the wrong button sometimes. I'm pushing that back in and pulling that out. Okay, so now I'm going to just move the, okay, so we're pushing it out, so we're going to right click, and we're going to jump inside, and we're going to left click, and just get a little bit closer, so it's a little bit cleaner job. Okay, so as we, sorry about that silence there. I'm not used to needing to talk while I work. I'm just trying to finish this up a little bit more. Clean it up. Never knew how easy it was to do a mask until I started working on this little fish. I've always been kind of intimidated by them, to be truthfully. Just always felt it was a little bit out of my skill range, and that I would be taking on something a little bit more than I was really ready for when people started talking about masks. But now that I've done a couple, and literally I have only done, this is like my third one, and I'm doing this tutorial, and the only reason that I'm doing a tutorial so soon after learning how to do this is that I don't want you to wait as long as I waited to get more creative with my photography, just because masks can be intimidating. So there we go. We have the outline of our fish and our shrimp done. We know that we're wanting to affect the water, and so we know we want to impart color to this mask. So while I'm in my mask layer, I go click on the color, and you'll see how nicely it fills in around the fish and the shrimp. I come over to the color panel and I pick the color that I want. Here in the Gulf Coast, we tend to have more of a blue-green water than a solid deep blue. And so you can see that you can play around with this, and just whether it's representative of your own area, or whether it's just that you're wanting to get a particular look. You can play around with it and take it to any degree that you want in the color spectrum. And I think for today's purposes, we're going to stay right. I'm going to go a little bit more teal because that's kind of more representative of what we normally are, and I'm pretty happy with that. Now that that's done, also you can play with the density of the color. You can make it solid, and you can take it all the way back to nothing, or anywhere in between. So I'm just going to be happy with that color right there. I'd also like to come in and I would like to add a sharpening layer because I would like to sharpen up my fish a little bit. And so I'm going to bring these down, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to take it down, and I'm just going to brush over my fish and my shrimp. And I'm not going to go too crazy. I want to sharpen up those edges and those eyes a little bit, bring out some of the texture on the shrimp. There we go. You can really see it when you start playing with the radius. And that's one thing I've learned about ACDSee is that I really just have to play with it to see. Now that I know that this is non-destructive and I'm comfortable if I go in and create a layer mask of any type or an effects mask of any type, as long as I have saved that bottom layer, I know that I can do non-destructive editing and I can play to my heart's content. And so the fact that ACDSee has created a program that is non-destructive, it has made me a lot less timid in trying to discover new things to do with my photography. So there we are. Now I'm going to leave that as is. That's pretty much what I was looking for. I'm just going to do these as some fun thank you cards for friends and family who visit our area as a little reminder of the Gulf Coast. And so now we come down and we save as, and I choose to save as an ACDSee file. And then when I have a selection of photos that I'm going to print or that I'm going to do something with outside of ACDSee, then I will go in and export those as JPEGs into a 2-print file and take them off for printing. So that is your very simple tutorial on turning murky water into very pretty blue water. I hope you've enjoyed my first tutorial, and thanks for being part of it. This is Peggy with Peggy Parr Photography.